Hey YouTube, a lot has changed in the game and in the current meta since my last Taric guide video, which was already 4 months ago. So I just want to make a quick video to update you guys on my current setup and the build that I go in Taric. So first off, my runes. Since Taric is significantly squishier than it used to be, I'll get to that in the build section. My main rune setup right now is a Guardian Inspiration page. While taking Guardian is pretty standard for Taric, I do take a couple minor runes that are pretty off meta yet surprisingly effective. The most seemingly out of place rune here is definitely Chrysalis, which is generally regarded as a fighter or a bruiser rune. But the strength of this rune definitely comes in the 60 flat HP it grants, which is extremely helpful in those tough early levels. Because the resolve bonus HP is now based on level, and Taric gets less HP from whatever support item he builds, he's even weaker in those earliest levels. So that's the focus of this rune page. Help Taric survive the laning phase with Chrysalis' bonus HP and the mana sustained from Biscuits and Time Warp Tonic. Taric already outperforms most other supports in the late game teamfights, so what we're trying to do with this setup is compensate for his weaknesses, not amplify his already abundant strengths. I sometimes swap Chrysalis for conditioning and the Inspiration minor runes for magical boots and Cosmic Insight if I'm in a passive matchup where I can't get as much out of a stronger laning phase. My other main support rune setup is a Glacial Augment and Resolve page. As those of you who follow my channel know, I love Glacial Taric, but I can't run this into most matchups with a Taric being as squishy as he is right now. This is a good page for when you aren't against heavy poke, such as Brand, and you aren't against all-in potential, such as Leona, where you would really need the Guardian Shield. Along with the Approach Velocity rune, Glacial helps you chase down those enemies, stick to them, and land your Dazzle. The only swap I would make in this page is to switch Chrysalis for Fonts of Life, which also synergizes with Glacial Augment, but that just depends on my confidence that the lane will go well, and I don't need the extra Chrysalis HP. Briefly, I'll also cover what I currently like for Taric top. I still like Prestia Taric, since it's so easy to proc in the top lane, and Taric can definitely use the extra damage from it. He still takes Presence of Mind, but it is unfortunately substantially weaker on Taric than from what it used to be. Bone Plating is also nice top lane since you're more likely to go into longer trades with a melee opponent. Aftershock as a primary keystone is okay, but I don't feel like I do any damage with it. Not to mention it's hard to reliably proc, so I don't really like it that much. Unfortunately, after the Presence of Mind changes, I wouldn't really recommend Taric top for anyone that's not a dedicated Taric main, but it's still a fun and great thing to try out in normal game, and I'd recommend that. So now let's get to the big changes. What to build on Taric. Relic Shield, Taric's traditionally go-to item, has been nerfed again, and again, and it's gotten to the point where it isn't even worth taking at all anymore. With the lowest gold income, as well as only 150 HP more than the other fully upgraded support items, as the supposedly tanky support item, the Relic line is pretty much trash. Only one of the top 10 supports right now on OP.GG even takes Relic Shield. Luckily, Taric is a champion that's pretty flexible with his support itemization, and he is much stronger with the Ancient Coin line right now, since it just straight up gives way more gold income. He also doesn't lose out on lane sustain since more mana for Taric means more Qs. So the other big popular discussion right now for Taric is whether or not to build Tear of the Goddess. Personally, I don't like it. It's a huge investment into solely mana, and by the time it starts becoming useful, Taric already has enough base mana or other mana items to get by. Instead, I like to get an early Glacial Shroud, often right after I get Nomads. For just over the price of a Tear, Shroud provides armor and CDR, two stats that Taric uses really well. Especially along with the extra mana you get from the coin line, Tear is a totally excessive investment, which is only ideal in, say, like, really passive pro games. For boots, Taric gets pretty standard stuff. Ninja Taba against auto attackers and AD, Mercs against CC and AP, and occasionally, if I'm feeling pretty greedy, Ionian boots for the extra CDR. I consider 5 items to be core build items for Taric. The upgraded Ancient Coin item, Knight's Vow, Ardent Censer, Zeke's of Redemption. All of these are great items for Taric, but whether or not you build them depends on your team comp. If you've got a fed Hyper Carry, Zeke's will help boost your damage by a lot. If you've got an auto-reliant ADC or jungler, Ardent Censer will get a lot of value in helping them auto more and do more damage. If the enemy team lacks burst, the slow but decently powerful Redemption can help turn team fights. And of course the best all-around item is Knight's Vow, which gives Taric great stats and helps keep your carries alive. The other two items I'll occasionally pick up are Frozen Heart, which is a situationally strong Glacial Shroud upgrade as an alternative to Zeke's, and Locket, which just did get nerfed into the ground last patch, but it still can provide an okay shield if the enemy team has a strong AoE burst. And finally, a quick note on Taric's new playstyle as a whole. I feel like with these nerfs to early game health pools and tank support items, Riot is indirectly changing the role and function of Taric as a champion. Before, he can engage for his team, being a secondary frontline in teamfights, and reliably stay in combat to keep his spell rotations going. But now, especially with Taric being funneled into the much stronger Ancient Coin line, he is considerably squishier and is much more focused on healing and peeling for his team. So I feel like Taric's role as a support has changed from being a Warden, with some heals and shields, to a tanky Enchanter. Now, I'm not saying this shift is necessarily good or bad, but I think it's important to recognize this shift and see how it affects his gameplay. For example, is Taric more reliant on his team now than before? And as for the current meta, I feel like Taric's not in that great of a spot. And he's a pretty mediocre support right now, but I still find him incredibly fun to play, and I hope you all can too. So I hope this video was helpful to all you Taric players out there. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.